Jack, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls.
Good morning, bird brains! Out on the dinette today, and I'm literally just going for a ride because I want to. It's been way too long since I've ridden. I know you guys up north are probably crying because you haven't ridden in months, but you know, that's what you get for living up there. Everyone's like, oh man, I wish I could. You're lucky you live in Texas. And I say, is it luck? Because unless you have warrants or other, you know, legal circumstances, you can leave the state. You don't have to get a travel visa to move to a different state. But I digress. I know you guys have family and jobs and all that other stuff, but you could move to Texas. People say, oh, I can't move to Texas. You could. But anyways, guys, this is my first vlog as a married man. I know I might have mentioned it in some other vlogs that by the time you see this, I was married, but this is my first video that I'm recording as a married man. I've got a ring under this glove, I promise. But yeah, guys, me and Miss Bird, is it Miss or, I think it's Mrs. No, yeah, Mrs. Me and Mrs. Bird, that sounds weird. We finally tied the knot. We got married, at this point, it's been a couple weeks now. Went on our honeymoon in the beautiful Jamaica. So I thought I would take this vlog to just kind of tell you about, you know, how the wedding went, how the honeymoon went, what we did, and things of that nature. So I wanted to keep the wedding relatively private. I put a lot of my life and behind the scenes stuff here on the channel, but that was just kind of something that I wanted to keep between me and her. So I don't want you guys to take it personal, like, oh, you didn't include us in your wedding. It's just, I don't know, it's just a feeling that I had that I wanted that to be our thing. So I didn't put it, I don't think I put any pictures from the wedding on any social media or anything like that. It was a pretty small wedding. I think we only had about, I would say between 75 and 100 people. We were not the big extravagant wedding type. Plus, we don't really have a lot of friends. Or let me take that back. We don't have a lot of friends that we like enough to be considered wedding worthy. I know a lot of people. I don't know. I feel like people that are invited to your wedding should be close to you. So it was pretty much just family and then a few of my coworkers and of course the OG crew. Most of the OG crew was in my wedding party. I had Brad and Lawrence. You guys seen him on the channel a few times. He's now not living in Texas, but they were my co-best men. It was basically my best friend from high school, my best friend currently. They were my co-best men, and then of course Roadblock and Uncle Ken were two other my groomsmen. Roadblock's wife Tracy was our wedding planner. You can look up her services at I think it's Tracy's Union Events. I'm probably butchering that, but I'll go ahead and include a link down to her services down in the description. She did a great job. She's a little crazy, but I think that's kind of what you want your wedding planner to be. It's just a little bit on the crazy side. We had our ceremony. I always get ceremony and reception mixed up. So the part where we actually did the vows and everything, we did that at a little park downtown. Funny enough, it was actually right next to a bridge that I worked on the railroad that a truck hit. I don't know if I told that story on the channel or not, but long story short, when I was working on the railroad, we were working on this bridge and a semi-truck hit the bridge while we were working on it. It was super terrifying because the bridge raised up like 3 feet as I was like on the edge of it. But anyways, I was just like, wow, that's ironic that our little park was, or our reception ceremony area was right there next to that. You could see the Tower of America from our hall. I hear sirens. Where is it coming from? Behind me. Which way are you turning? Get out of the way. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Are you going straight? Are you turning? Alright, cool. If you don't know what the Tower of Americas is, it's this thing. It's one of the most iconic things on the San Antonio skyline. It was built during the World Fair, I believe. I could be completely wrong. I love how like I know so many things, but I'm only like 40% confident on if they're accurate or not. But when people see that, they either think San Antonio or Seattle because they think it's the Space Needle, or it's pretty recognizable as being a San Antonio thing. Dude, I'm not an import guy, but those Corolla hatchbacks are pretty cool. I would never drive one, but I think they're pretty cool. Anyways, our officiator was one of Mrs. Bird's uncles. He did a great job. And then we did our own written vows. We didn't do the traditional ones. We actually wrote them ourselves. It was so funny because Mrs. Bird told me like 3 months ago, actually it was probably longer than that, it was probably about 6 months ago. She's like, hey, you need to start writing your vows. I don't want you to wait until the last minute because it's a lot harder than you think. I was like, don't worry, I got it. Then she asked me like 2 months before the wedding, like, hey, have you written your vows? I'm like, yeah, they're like 90% done. When in reality, I haven't written a single word. I told myself, I'm like, I'm not gonna wait till the last minute. I'm not gonna wait till the last minute. I literally wrote them the day before. But I killed it. They were perfect. So I'm really good at writing. That's one of the things I'm good at. I don't really enjoy it, but I'm good at it. So knocked that out the day before. After the ceremony reception thing, God, I really wish I knew which one was which. We had our little, the party, the food and everything. We had at a little craft brewery bar, which sounds super hipster. Doesn't really make sense either, considering I don't like beer. I'm not a beer drinker. I'm a whiskey and spirits kind of guy. But one of our good friends, John, owns it. You've seen me go to that bar on the channel if you've, seen every episode. Took the Sportster there shortly after it was done. I took the Dyna there shortly after I put the fairing on, I believe. But he's a really good guy, really good friend of ours. Gave us a stupid killer price on it, so we were able to keep the budget on the entire wedding pretty relatively low. It was still, thousands of dollars, but weddings are expensive, man. That's what you got to do. You got to pay to play, I guess. But the reason we chose it, not only was John a good friend of ours and we got a killer price on it, but our wedding was 20s themed. It was kind of like a Great Gatsby style theme wedding, and that bar is kind of the Prohibition style decorated, so it's got like newspaper articles and stuff on the wall. Really cool little place, and it was actually the perfect size. It ended up being absolutely perfect for the amount of guests that we had, and everyone had a great time. I think the theme portion of it kind of killed the traditional, what's the word I'm looking for, the traditional feel. So it didn't actually feel like a wedding, which is what we wanted. We really didn't want a lot of the traditional stuff. So like we didn't do the bouquet toss or the garter thing, or really the only wedding traditions we did was the first dances. So she danced with her dad and her stepdad, and I danced with my mom. But that was pretty much the only tradition thing that we did. Other than that, it was pretty much just a, hey everyone, come party and, celebrate the new marriage type of thing. So it was very laid back. I got to see a lot of my family, which was awesome. A lot of her family actually came down from Iowa, which was awesome. And it actually worked out really cool because her family came in early in the week. So we had the wedding on a Saturday. A lot of her family came in on like a Wednesday or Thursday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evening, we got to spend a lot of time with her side of the family. When on the other side of things, my family came in late, so most of them came in either Friday evening or Saturday morning, but were staying until, heck, some of them stayed until the following Thursday because they were on spring break, so they brought their kids and everything. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday evening, we got to spend time with my family. Did not plan it that way at all. I mean, looking back on it, we probably should have planned it that way, but it just worked out perfect. So none of the activities actually were double booked or anything like that. We got to spend literally the whole time together with the corresponding families, so it worked out really well. Unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, I'm glad that we did it this way. We didn't want to do the whole wedding and then honeymoon like the next day. That's actually a thing in the Mexican culture, is to have a wedding. Say for example, if you had it on Saturday night, it's standard tradition to party all day or all night Saturday night and leave for the honeymoon that following morning. Most Mexican families will party from 12 a.m. Saturday for 11:59 Saturday night all the way until the morning, and then the family sees them off to their honeymoon. We definitely did not want to do that because staying up all night sounds absolutely terrible, considering we're on the inside, we're about 85 years old. We're usually in bed by about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So staying up all night sounds terrible. But, you know, with the wedding and everything like that, we wanted to make sure that we had everything here settled before we, you know, leave the country. So what we did was Sunday morning we had brunch with most of the wedding party and most of our families. And then we actually went back to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and didn't leave on our honeymoon until Thursday, which actually worked out perfectly. It did suck a lot to, you know, already be in vacation mode and have to go back to work for 3 days. Luckily for me, though, I only had to go into the office on Monday. I work from home Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so I was kind of, you know, already kind of laid back. But we leave Thursday. We went to Montego Bay, Jamaica. It was my first time leaving the country, so it was my first time, you know, getting the passport, going through customs, all of that stuff. So that was a whole new experience to me. I've been to Mexico a couple times, but that was pre 9/11, so that was before, you know, you needed a passport and all that jazz. It was really just, are you a U.S. citizen? You'd be like, yeah. They'd be like, come on in. So we flew from San Antonio to Miami. We had a small layover in Miami. We flew American Airlines. I actually really enjoy American. I know they've got a bad reputation for, you know, having delays and things like that, but I've never had an issue with them. I think their planes are better than Southwest, of course, because, you know, you are paying quite a bit more for them, but I like the idea of assigned seating. I like to know that I have an aisle seat before I get on the plane. But anyways, we flew into Miami, had a small layover, and then flew from Miami to Jamaica. I actually got a window seat on that one just because that's all we had available, not by choice. But I'm the type that I like to get on a plane and I open up my tablet and I put on my headphones and I watch movies, and that's what I do. Is I'm a movie and TV show kind of guy. I really enjoy flying in that sense because I'm the type of person I always have to be doing something. But being on a plane with no internet, no Wi-Fi, or anything like that, you're kind of forced to relax, and that's really what I needed, especially after all the crap that we had just been through that week with the wedding and everything. So I literally just put on episodes of Mr. Robot. If you haven't seen that show, I highly recommend it. I'm kind of in the IT sector, so it was very interesting to me. It's about a hacker that tries to take down a big corporation. But I'm sitting there watching TV and I'm just like, I wonder what it looks like outside. So I popped the window open and of course it looks like the Caribbean, which seeing in person for the first time was kind of shocking because the water's just gorgeous and blue and clear, and I was like, whoa, look at that. That flight was only about an hour and a half. It was pretty short. We get into Jamaica, and like right off the bat, like right when we get off the plane, you go into the airport, and the airport, of course, doesn't look like American airports. It's pretty ratty in comparison, in the sense of, like, you know, the paint isn't nice, the floor is all jacked up. Like, you can tell that you're not in America anymore. And it was really at that moment where it hit me like, holy crap, I'm in a foreign country. And then we get into the customs line, which is holy shit long. It was my first time ever going through customs, so of course I'm just terrified. It was very weird being the immigrant, I guess you could say, because being an American, you always see people coming through customs, you know, from foreign countries and things like that, and you're like, okay, well, those are immigrants. It was so weird being on the other side of the fence. You're like, holy crap, I'm the immigrant now. Like, I'm the one that they are vetting to make sure I'm not doing anything illegal. Totally a surreal experience, especially being in a country like Jamaica, where people say that Jamaicans are, you know, super nice and super relaxed. That's only true within the resorts and when you're giving them money. Outside the resorts, Jamaicans are rude as shit. Now, granted, I come from Texas where people are overly nice. I went to Washington, D.C. when I was in high school, and I thought those people are rude as shit. So it might just be my southern mentality thinking that they were a lot ruder than they actually were. But it was a shocking experience just to be treated like that. But anyways, in case you've never flown out of the country, basically you walk through this line and then you go to these like kiosks, like ATM looking things, and you scan your passport and you get this receipt basically saying like, I am so and so, I came in at this time on this day, my visa's good for X amount of days. So I scan my passport, get my picture taken, which it doesn't give you any warning, it's just like, look at the green light, but at that point it's already taken the picture, so my picture literally looks like a mugshot. And then you go into another line to wait to go speak to, well, what I thought was to go speak to a representative. So here's where the story gets interesting. We're in this secondary line between the kiosk and the desk people, and one of the people working there comes up to me and she goes, let me see your passport and your slip. So I hand her my passport and my slip, and she goes, yeah, this passport isn't valid. And I was like, pardon me? Can you say that one more time for me, please? She said, this passport isn't valid. And I say, why is it not valid? She goes, it's not signed. I was like, oh, this is my first time using it. I didn't know I had to sign it. Where do I sign it? She goes, you can sign it right here. I was like, cool. Can I have a pen? She goes, we don't have pens. Which, by the way, was a thing, because on the plane into Jamaica, you have to fill out your customs form, which is basically saying, like, are you bringing anything into the country, like excessive amounts of money or drugs or anything like that. And I was like, oh, awesome. So I turn around and start asking for a pin, and of course no one has a pin. I have to go back like 7 or 8 people to get a pin. And I get a pin, and as I'm looking for a pin, Mrs. Bird, Alicia, goes on to the next portion, which I thought she went and talked to the person and then went on to the next stage. More on that later. So I get a pin, I sign my passport, she takes my slip and does this little mark on it, and she says, all right, go past the desks and turn to the right. So the desks are where the other workers are sitting. So I go, okay. So I go past the desk and I go to the right. I meet up with Mrs. Bird, and she goes, oh, you didn't get a stamp. And I was like, I literally just did what I was told. In my mind, I was thinking she was saying, hey, you need a stamp because that's how you get back in the country. I always thought that's how it worked, that you weren't allowed into another country until they could verify the country you were coming from via the stamp that you got. Apparently that's not how they do it anymore. I didn't know that. I was completely ignorant to that. That digital slip that you get is essentially your stamp now. But I was under the impression that she had gone onto the desks, talked to the people at the desks, gotten her stamp, and then moved on. She went right past the desk and moved on just like I did. So I spent like the next 4 or 5 days just freaking out thinking, I didn't have a stamp, I'm not going to be able to get back into the US. Like I wasn't freaking out, but it was definitely a worry in the back of my mind. But anyways, we get on to the next portion, which is the actual customs portion, to process your customs slip, make sure you're not bringing anything you're not supposed to. That was simple because all we had was carry-on luggage. We didn't have any bags or anything, so we blew right on through that. And then we get to the travel portion. So we had booked a charter bus thing to take us from the airport to the resort, because we had heard that taxis can get kind of dangerous in that area now. You don't know who you're hiring and things like that. Some people will, take you for, not hostage, but say like, hey, give me $100 or I'm not letting you out of the car type of thing. So we just played it safe and hired a travel company to take us from airport to the resort. So we meet up with our resort, or our travel company people. They're like, okay, awesome, welcome to Jamaica. We're going to take you to your bus. We're like, cool. And I've always heard that, Jamaica's very, marijuana proud, which is cool. I don't have anything against it. I really don't. I think it should be legalized here in America. I don't personally partake in it myself, given my job. We do get drug tested at my job, so I don't do it personally, but I don't criticize anyone else who does. I think it's a completely safe drug. That's for a whole other story. But I didn't realize how marijuana proud this country was, because I'm like, I wonder how long it's going to take from when we leave the airport to the first time we get offered weed. 2 minutes. It was literally 2 minutes. By the time we reached our bus, the guy that was helping us with our luggage asked if we wanted to buy weed. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, man, it's not illegal here, which it is and it isn't. It's decriminalized under, I think, 2 grams, 2 ounces, something like that. Basically, you just can't have enough on you to deal it. You can smoke it though without, I don't know. I didn't look into the laws that much because, like I said, I don't partake in it. But that was an interesting experience. We get on the bus and we drive like 4 miles to the resort. It was super close. But just in that 4 miles, you really get to see that outside the resorts, that Jamaica is a shithole. I'm sorry if I'm talking about anyone's country, but this is a third world country we're talking about. It is not like what you see here. They definitely live a different lifestyle than we do. They drive absolutely insane. I heard more beeps of the horn in that 4 miles than I had in the last year and a half here in the States. They also drive on the opposite side of the road, which was a lot more hard to get used to than I thought, particularly as a pedestrian, because like usually like if you're crossing the street, you know which ways to look and which ways cars are coming and which ways they can turn, etc. That completely threw me off. We only went off the resort one time, and that was to go to a Harley shop. Yeah, it really tripped me out, not knowing where the cars were going to be coming from. But to continue with my story, we drive that 4 miles to the resort. We get to the resort, and the resort is gorgeous. We stayed at a place called Riu Palace, R-I-U Palace. And it's actually a property that has 3 different resorts within the same property. So you've got Riu Palace, which was in the middle, and to the left of it was Riu Reggae, and to the right of it was Riu Montego Bay. Riu Palace, the one that we were staying at, was the most exclusive one that they offered. It was adult only, and it was exclusive, meaning that none of the other 2 properties could go to your resort, but you could go to either of the other 2 properties. Riu Reggae was also adult only, but they could only go to Montego Bay. They could not go to the Palace. And then, of course, Riu Montego Bay was not adult only, so it had a lot of kids, and there was a lot of kids there, and they could only stay on their resort, which actually worked out perfect for us. So we were staying in the middle one. The average age of someone staying at the resort was probably about 45, 50 years old. It was definitely an older crowd, a definitely more mellow crowd, which, like I say, we're like 95 at heart, so it worked out well for us. Essentially what we would do is in the morning we would wake up and go eat the breakfast buffet, and then after that we'd go and have a couple drinks and then get a nice buzz going, and then head over to the Riu Reggae and party with the younger people until we wanted to come home and, you know, have a nice quiet dinner. We'd come back over to the Palace. But as we were checking into the Palace, our ambassador, she said, hey, over at the Riu Reggae, they serve Jamaican jerk chicken every day between 12 and 3. And that was one of the things I was really excited for. I know that sounds like a total fat ass of me, but that's who I am at heart. I'm still a fat boy. I was like, hell yeah, give me that jerk chicken. She said, but you have to be there pretty close to 12 because they only serve what they have, then it's done. I'm like, all right, we'll be there at like 11:45. And she said, but be careful because it can be really spicy. They have a spicy sauce that's very spicy. And I'm like, whatever, I'm from Texas, I can handle that shit. You Jamaicans don't know what you're talking about. Boy, let me tell you what. So the first day, the very next day, we line up at like 11:45. We get ready for the jerk chicken, and we're like 4th or 5th in line, so we're right there. And the couple ahead of us, they've been there all week, and they're like, it's so good. We've been here every single day. It's the best jerk chicken we've ever had. Talking it up, I'm like, hell yeah. So we get up there, and I see the 2 sauces. And one of them is a sweet Caribbean sauce, and the other is a spicy jerk sauce. I'm like, well, this is jerk chicken. Obviously, I'm going to get the spicy jerk sauce. Guys, there was like a dozen whole scorpion and habanero peppers just floating around in this sauce. And not only that, there was a skin of pepper seeds. Like, you could barely see the sauce. There were so many pepper seeds floating on top of this. It was like a film of pepper seeds on top of this sauce. So I did consider, you know, taking it lightly. I'm like, F it, I'm on vacation, let's go. So I get, you know, 2 big ladlefuls and just drown my chicken. Man, talk about setting my ass on fire. That is both figuratively and literally. So it was a very quick heat, a very fast heat. As soon as I bit into it, I was like, holy shit, this is gonna suck. I was like, I'm not no bitch. I'm gonna try to finish as much as I can. I got through about 3/4 of the entire plate, which was a lot. It was chicken, rice, sausage, vegetables, a whole plate. And I made it through about 3/4 before my stomach started actually hurting, like felt like it was on fire. I was like, all right, maybe I should call it quits. And then later that night, as to be expected, it came out the other end and it was just as hot. And I'll just leave it at that. Stingray on another level. But I will say it was very delicious, and we did go back there, I think every other day we were there except once to get that jerk chicken. But other than that, guys, we pretty much just did absolutely nothing. I know people say like, oh, that's the best part about vacation is going and doing nothing. And this was my first vacation where I actually felt like I did that, and I didn't hate it. We'd spend literally hours at the bar just sitting and drinking. This resort was all inclusive, so literally you could just order drink after drink after drink after drink after drink after drink and not spend a dime. Of course, we were tipping our bartenders. We're not animals, but we didn't have to. We could have done that if we wanted to, but when you're not spending $5 to $15 a drink, you're just going for it, man. And we did. I think I wanted to keep track of how many drinks I had. I lost count at 36 throughout the entire 4-day stay, so I would say I averaged about 10 to 15 drinks a day. And I would say the hardest thing was switching from, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a whiskey and liquor kind of guy. I like bourbons and stuff like that, and when I drink it neat. Not mixed, not on the rocks, neat is how I like it. And having to switch from that to drinking pina coladas and strawberry daiquiris, it was an experience. The first time I tasted a pina colada, it was the very first pina colada I've ever had. I was like, that is absolutely delicious. So I probably had about a dozen pina coladas just by themselves, and then of course they had the mixed drink menu, which I pretty much just went down the line. I probably had about 90% of them, and pretty much just sat out by the pool and sat on the beach and relaxed. Activity we did, like I said, we went off the resort once to go to the Harley shop. It was literally just across the street, like from here to that red building over there. That's how close it was from the resort. It was just a boutique. It wasn't an actual Harley shop. It just had t-shirts and stuff like that. I did get poker chips, of course. I knew someone was going to ask, but I did get poker chips. But outside of that, the only activity we did is we did it was a 4-hour snorkeling catamaran, which is basically just a fancy word for boat, or a style of boat. And we went snorkeling at a reef, which that was my first time ever doing real snorkeling outside of a swimming pool. That was definitely an experience. So we went out, I think it was about an hour to the reef. We got out, snorkeled for an hour. Then after that, they took us to Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, which, good God, can you say tourist trap? I mean, I knew that before we got there, but I don't understand why they would take us there, right? Like, we've got a Jimmy Buffett here in San Antonio, so I don't know. I thought that was kind of stupid, but then on the way back was the sunset, which was, of course, gorgeous out there. But while I was snorkeling, those fish, I guess they're so used to you know, being around other fish and being around other animals, they don't give a shit when you're close to them. So I'm sitting there snorkeling in a school of fish, and it's surreal being that close to that many fish and them not being scared of you. So we got to see the reef, which of course had, you know, the Nemo fishes and the Dory fishes, and the only time I really freaked out was when I saw an eel, because the eel was probably about 3 feet long. It was a big son of a bitch, and it was just kind of hanging out. I was like, oh shit, okay. But definitely an eye-opening experience. But just like any other time I go on vacation, I was happy and excited to get home. I missed my dogs like crazy. We didn't see a single dog the entire time we were there. The only dogs we saw were at the airports. I could see how people would miss their kids a lot, because I really missed my dogs. And I just missed Americans in general. Of course, there was tons of Americans there at the resort, but, you know, it's not the same. And also, I was excited to get home to, one, ride the bike, and two, start working on the bike again. I'm actually filming an episode of the Ultimate Ultra Build Series. As soon as I get home, I'm literally just taking a ride now because I can. But right when I get back, we're pretty much going to be wrenching on the bike for the rest of the day. And that will probably be close to the last episode, guys. We're getting very close to being done with that bike. Some people have been asking, what are we going to do after the Ultra is done? I think I might take a small break from wrenching on the bikes, just because I think the channel needs a break. But after that, like I've mentioned in some previous videos, I do have some more plans for the Dyna. I do have some parts in for the Dyna, so we will be doing that probably shortly after the Ultimate Ultra Build Series is done. And then after that, we're gonna probably look for a project bike, whether that is Project Clean Slate or a completely separate project, I don't know. I've been also thinking about working on other people's bikes, not anything as drastic as what I'm doing here, but I want to show people that A, I somewhat know what I'm doing now, but B, that they can also do it themselves. I've had a couple people ask me like, hey, if I brought my bike over, could you, you know, show me how to do it or watch me do it, make sure I don't do anything wrong, or teach me how to do it? I'm like, hell yes. Like, that's basically what I was looking for, and thankfully I have found that in Super Dave. He's been a great mentor to me through this series, and I will say working on this bagger has taught me so much. I've learned more in this one build series than the Sportster and Dyna combined, I think, just because baggers are so much more involved. But I'm just at another level of confidence to where, you know, things like handlebars, exhaust, just stupid shit like that is so easy to me now, but I'm still fresh enough to know how intimidating it was not only 2 years ago. So I know we're working on Team Bradley's bike shortly. That will probably be done before the Dyna, because he's been waiting for quite a bit. He ordered his parts quite a while ago, but I told him, I was like, if you don't get them in before we start the Ultra, you're not getting it done until after we're done with the Ultra. And he, of course, didn't get them in time, but he has been waiting for a few months now. So we will be doing handlebars on his Softail Slim. And then actually Robert over at GTZ Powder Coating is wanting to get some work done on his bike. So we might be doing, you know, a little trade for trade. I work on his bike, he does some parts for me type of deal. Because he has a Harley too. He's got I think a 2014 Street Glide. It's a 103 Street Glide. I don't know the exact year, but he wants to work on his own bike because he's been so busy that, you know, his bike is pretty much still stock. I think he's got like he might have a stage 1 on it, but he wants to do a lot of the stuff that I've done to my bikes, but he just doesn't, one, he doesn't have the time, and two, he doesn't have the knowledge. So that's probably going to be another bike that you'll see here on the channel. Of course, anything I do on the bikes I'm going to film because it's content for you guys, and it's good it's just good videos to have on the channel. I don't know if I'm ready to make it like a part-time business type of deal to where I'm just working on bikes out of my garage. I want to, I just don't know if it's the right move for me personally, since I'm already so busy with the channel and the business and, you know, working a normal 40-hour work week. But part of me is like, that might be the stepping stone to take this to a full-time gig to where I don't have to do a 40-hour work week at a regular job. But I don't know. I'm kind of just sitting on it, letting it, you know, kind of sit and brew. If you know me, you know I like to trust my gut, and right now my gut's not giving me anything, so I'm just gonna sit and wait until it does give me something. But anyways, guys, that's probably gonna do it for today's video. I know this is probably a long one, so I apologize that I blabbed on for so much, but it's been so long since I talked to you guys. There was still a lot that I needed to get out. Plus, I haven't done a normal vlog like this in forever. It feels good to just get on the bike and blab for a while. Other than that, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and punch that subscribe button. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.